After I graduated HS, I saw my history teacher at a bar and he bought me a drink, took me back to his place and we ducked. I snuck out the next morning and I haven't heard from him since. After graduation, I hooked up with my old history teacher a few times. I frequently would watch his daughter when he had to work late. I was invited to go camping with the two of them. Let's have a drink to celebrate the beginning of summer changed quickly. I ended it very abruptly when his daughter started calling me mum. When I was 17 I got the chance to go to school in the States, born in Greenland, and so I had a senior year here. The English teacher had just gotten the job there according to the other kids my age. But what happened was I needed help just speaking and learning English better, so she said she'd help me out. I'd come in after school and we'd do the flashcard BS, and eventually she started asking me what I thought about American girls and if I prefer blondes, brunettes and etc. Questions slowly got more personal until she gave me her phone number, told me to call her at 8 and she'll have plans. I was confused as hell, but when I got to her house my other head took over the thinking. P.S. If I messed up any grammar please excuse it, I didn't pay a lot of attention during the lessons. Most of my teachers have fucked me. Banged out my English teacher after graduation in her minivan in the middle of nowhere. We had gone for drinks and things went from there. She was married. Unfortunately for me the van got stuck in mud and we called for a tow. Ironically, the tow guy was a firefighter who worked with her husband. Things went downhill from there. I'm a teacher. If this gets any serious answers, all I can say is tar_tar. I had sex with my high school gym teacher after I graduated. I was really overweight and just not pleasant to look at in high school, but I had a huge crush on him. After graduation I lost weight and looked him up on Facebook. I said we should meet up for dinner, so we did. I told him I used to have a gigantic crush on him, which he didn't believe. He said I should go to his place for dinner sometime, and of course I was all for it. I get there and he made a pizza and we had some beer. Then watched TV on the couch for what seemed like an eternity, just talking and joking. That led to cuddling and whabam my hand was on his dick. He led me to the bedroom and we proceeded to have some of the best sex I've ever had in my life. Since then he's texted me randomly wanting more. We've exchanged pictures and videos and sometimes called each other for the big O but never got together again. When I was in kindergarten my super hot teacher let me suck on her boobs to comfort me because I missed my mother's. It was so hot. When I was 17 I had a short sexual relationship with my high school English teacher. She was the hot teacher but in reality look back now probably a 6.5, 10 at most. She lived in my neighborhood and if occasional run into her walking her dogs and talked frequently outside of school. I went to her house a couple times to help her with small tasks or she'd invite me over for lunch, dinner on the weekends sometimes. One of those times I was sitting on her couch and she sort of just got close to me and we started kissing and went from there. At the time I just felt like oh yeah I'm mature, she sees me as an equal. She was probably late 20s so I just thought oh yeah I'm the man, no shit she wants to hang out with me and have a relationship with me. Again I was 17 at the time and was in long-term relationships through high school so I fell in love and thought it would be a long-term thing. She quickly I think realized what would happen long-term if she kept this up, but I swore I would never tell anyone because I loved her. I never did except to my friends who didn't believe me anyways. Thinking back she's definitely got some things wrong with her that's not normal, but to say it affected me or hurt, damaged me would be complete BS. I am somewhat proud of it though, like a badge of honor no one believes to see. I dated my college professor. I went to his office hours any chance I could, even though I didn't need to. It was pretty obvious there was a mutual attraction. We would end up talking instead of studying, which quickly turned to flirting. I can't specifically remember how it became physical, but when I look back it's almost like a cliché movie scene. We sorta awkwardly looked at each other, then started making out. I don't know if it was him who went for it, or me, or both of us at the same time. I lost my virginity to a teacher in high school. She was my English teacher freshman year, and it was her first year teaching. She paid extra attention to me, and would always lean in over my desk to talk during quiet reading time. One day she wore a very deep V-neck shirt and no bra. I told her I could see down her shirt. I was an awkward kid, and she told me she knew. I slept with her the next week. Literally the best sex I had up until I met my wife. Definitely recommend it. A girl that I was on the speech team with in high school turned out to be having sex with one of the coaches. He was a guy that was supremely overweight and ended up losing the majority of it, but he always had a very playful and borderline inappropriate relationship with students, particularly females. But everyone just thought he was the goofy, relatable kind of guy that was easier to talk to than most teachers. He was particularly close to this girl, who he specifically coached, and they spent a lot of time together. She would also skip class to go hang out with him. Everyone including myself thought their relationship was oddly close, but most people brushed it off as that's how he was with a lot of people. The story came out when they eventually found a love letter written by him to the girl. She was 16 at the time their relationship began, and he stated that he wanted to wait until they were 18, but kissed her anyway. They proceeded to meet up for sex on multiple occasions, one time being in his house when his daughter was home. Not a student, I'm actually a teacher. I'm pretty sure the guy was retarded, and he had some odd deformities. Yellowish skin, weird boxy head and scrawny limbs, definitely no. Freshman year of college, I was handling the loss of my father horribly and started struggling with my classes. I went to my English professor's office one day for guidance about an assignment, and we ended up talking about life. She confided in me that she was struggling with a messy divorce. The office visits became routine and the highlight of my school day, where we just entertained and consoled each other through whatever shit life was throwing at us. We developed an intense mutual attraction, and then finally near the end of the semester, she invited me over for a home-cooked dinner while her kids were away. We drank wine with dinner and ended up snuggling and tickling each other on the couch, which turned into making out, and then I carried her to her bedroom and we had sex. I'd only had sex once before that, when I lost my virginity during the summer break after HS graduation, but what I lacked in experience I made up for with stamina and enthusiasm. I remember Googling how to please an older woman days before the big night. She was very nice about my inexperience though, and ended up teaching me a lot about fucking over the course of several months. First year uni, French professor is some dude who immediately took leave for burnout, replaced by go-getter master's student. She is late 20s and about a 6, keeps calling on me during class. One night at the student bar where I was bouncer, she shows up drunk and keeps saying hi to me every time she has to use the washroom. Fast forward 3 hours, I am done putting up tables and restocking the kegs, leave, see her sitting at picnic table, head in arms. Give her a shake, she apparently decided to wait for me. I drive her home and help her up to her apartment. She disappears for a second and comes back completely naked. Whoa. Don King Merkin. She starts coming on to me hard and I start to go with it. She unzips and starts to blow me, but it's not good. She gets up and goes to her bedroom. I use the washroom. I might or might have not been flirted with by a high school music teacher when I was 14/15. It made me really confused and uncomfortable at the time because I couldn't tell what his motives were. Still can't. He was a really good teacher, too. Friendly, well-liked. He was middle-aged and very attractive. He kept pushing me to come in before or after class to get help because I missed a couple of days. That's normal and all, but it rubbed me the wrong way. I just felt a weird vibe around him. I liked him a lot, but at the same time I felt sort of wrong. One day I was the only student in my Thai class in Phuket. I noticed earlier my Thai teacher would sometimes give me extra attention. We were talking while waiting to see if any other students would arrive. She said, "I like strong men." Okay, I was thinking. Waiting for her to continue. Then she said, "You look like strong man." Which made it fairly obvious that she was into me. Not many minutes later we were shagging on her desk. Amazing Thailand. Thinking back I feel great about it. Winking face, smiley face, smiley face. I started sleeping with my professor of the same sex. It turned into an actual relationship, but we didn't want to label it as one because we thought nothing could ever come of it because she's my superior. Anyways, she's a lesbian and all in her mid-30s, and decided to get pregnant via sperm donor. When she told me about her decision, she decided it would probably be best that we ended our relationship once she was pregnant. Well, she got pregnant and we ended it, but she became really depressed without me, so she kinda went batshit crazy. I took her to therapy and tried my best to ensure she was in the right state of mind to carry a child, but it was just too much. She showed up to my apartment a few times in the middle of the night, and once she sexually assaulted me. That's when I lost my shit. I filed a TPO against her and never heard from her again. I was 18 and a freshman into a community college. She was my art teacher. She may have been 23 to 24. I was instantly attracted to her. She was absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous in that way you're curious what their hair smells like, beautiful in the way I could just stare at her move and walk. She had this thing where she would raise one eyebrow, bite her bottom lip and nod while you talked to her. I really don't remember what she looked like, but I remember how I felt when I was around her. I always got to class early just to talk and stayed late for the same reason. We had a trip to a museum and I arrived late and didn't have a partner to split up with, so we walked around, talked about art while she so passionately explained everything. Everyone else left at 4 or 5 p.m. Her and I stayed and closed the place down. Afterwards we had coffee across the street and stayed there talking until 1 or 2 a.m. We hooked up that night and a couple times after that. I never mentioned to a single soul that her and I had gotten together, but as days passed a lot of other students had a feeling something was going on with us. We stopped after that and I never heard from her again after that class. Had a class with a professor I could relate to. We saw a lot of each other outside of class all semester and became good friends. When class ended, me and another mutual friend hung out with him and watched movies and stuff like Star Trek. Then I would hang out with him alone. That went on almost daily for a month till one day we brushed up against each other for a split second and holy crap, that was the end of pretending to be friends. Been fucking, dating, exploring kinks and fetishes together for a few years. And a couple people know, but most are still unaware. I was in grade 9 and the gym teacher, 35-year-old woman, kept asking me about my gymnastics after school, so I'd hang out and show her some moves and spot her doing flips. One time she fell and landed badly, so I rushed over to see if she was okay and she giggled and pulled me to the mat and we started wrestling and she kissed me. I wasn't sure what to do as I never had any woman ever touch me like this, so I kept coming back as I was curious. Long story short, we had sex in her car one night after she offered me a ride home during a blizzard. I didn't use a condom. I wish I would have waited to have sex with someone closer to my age because it really messed up my expectations of sex. Senior year, I was 18 and she was a 35-year-old Latina MILF. It played out like a porno fantasy, and to this day, people still don't believe me. She was hot, had marriage problems, and just needed some young dick to satisfy her, I guess. It started out as playful flirting. She started to get physical, hugs, touching my shoulders in class, holding my hand when nobody was looking, and finally we just porked. Porked at her house, her car outside the school, some quickies in the classroom during lunch period. I think the thrill of trying not to get caught enticed her more than the actual affair. She ended up divorcing her husband and I moved off to college, but we're still FB friends to this very day. Maybe I'll give her a call. My best friend started dating our lecturer in our final year of college. The age gap was 29 years. After she was done studying, they moved in together and she also started working in the same department at the college as he did. They lived together for 4 years and worked together all that time. Then she left him because he flat out refused to marry her. They still worked together after that, but it was kinda weird. I lost my virginity in college to one of my TARS, teacher's assistant. She was a grad student at the time, but several years my senior. We met up one day outside of class at her place, did the deed, and went our separate ways. Never really kept much contact after that besides staying connected through social media. My senior math teacher was a newlywed who moved to a small town. Her and I got along really well. I finished school and moved to the city. About 3 months later I met her in a grocery store and asked if she was here on break. Not really. She had divorced her husband. We started talking and it turns out she was isolated in our small town where she knew no one. She moved and still didn't have a lot of friends. It had built up and finally she left him. Our conversation was really good. It seemed like she needed to get it out. So we went for coffee. Then back to her place. Yada yada yada. I banged my math teacher. I had a crush on my math teacher first moment he walked in class. At first I couldn't really deal with it, so my grades were really suffering. My parents asked for remedial lessons. Is that the right word? It kind of worked and I passed. At the end of the year I wrote him a letter to thank him plus a very inappropriate last paragraph. Nothing was mentioned until a full year later. He wasn't my teacher anymore. He mentioned he was flattered, but it was impossible. Still, we kissed that evening. We kept it a secret for a long time. We also moved away, which helped in keeping it a secret. We are still together and going strong. She was my teacher in HS for 4 years. 10 years older. We were kinda close. Kept in contact when I went to college. One night I was studying in my dorm for a physics exam the next day. She called, said she needed someone to talk to. Her marital problems had become much worse, cheating husband, with one of his students. She came by. We talked. Then told her needed to study. She asked if she could stay over. Soon started coming on to me. Really insisted I had to study. But she wouldn't let up. I then said I wanted to sleep, early exam and all that. She kept touching. And started stroking. I didn't know what to do. I knew she really would not stop. I can't hit her. I can't get mad, I felt too bad for her. I dunno. I decided that I should just get it finished with so it would be over. Then we did. My roommate arrived. We stopped. She insisted we finish in the bathroom. We did. I felt so disgusted with myself. That was the last time I spoke to her. I did gymnastics with a girl since I was 5. She was 2 years older than me. Right around the time she became a teenager, she started getting really close to our coach, who is over double her age. They were always together and he favored her openly. My parents and others girls on the team parents had a serious problem with it. No one ever did anything about it, even though everyone knew something was going on. They eventually started dating when she went to college. They're married now with a daughter and they both run the same gym together. I guess I technically had a sexual relationship with a teacher. She was the lab tar for my invertebrate zoology lab, and refused to do anything with me until after the class. After classes, we partied and hooked up quite a lot. After a year of us still being together, other Tasmania started dating undergrads.